Well, on behalf of the RIA and our 27-member airlines, 200 associate members, I want to thank you all for joining us for our first international event. And before I get started, I want to just compliment Roger and his team. And I won't go into any of the names there, but it's a small team that accomplishes so much. I think when you walk in this hall, it's always very impressive, and all of the accommodations here are fantastic, and there's just sort of all the details are handled so well, and it's amazing how it gets done. This morning I got this the Regional Horizons at my door. I hope everybody's seen that, and it's got actual content from yesterday and pictures from yesterday. It's stunning, and Martha Thomas from Eagle's Communications Department, which is actually just Martha Thomas, that's the department, but Martha's here with me, and I said to her this morning, this is so cool that they've got this, this magazine under our door in the morning with actual pictures and articles from yesterday. We need to have a daily company newspaper, and so she's really excited about that. So, anyway, as the voice of our industry in Washington, we'd like to compliment our Congress for last week's bipartisan fix to halt the air traffic control furloughs. That was fast becoming responsible for what could have been thousands of flight delays every day. The past several weeks, I think, speak to the ever-changing industry in which we operate. No day is ever the same in the regional business. One day it's weather, the next an unexpected maintenance issue, and in between those, regulatory changes and the constant push to ensure that the more than 50,000 regional airline employees continue to deliver safe, professional, and reliable service. At American Eagle, we pride ourselves in being a great example of the resilience of this industry. In 2012, we had a record year for our airline in terms of dependability and reliability in the midst of AMR's bankruptcy, restructuring, and then the merger with U.S. Airways. This success is reflective of the general attitude of our industry. We need to be, and we know we need to be, adaptable and nimble to best serve our customers, be it the passengers who fly in our planes or the mainline carriers that we serve. The regional industry is often described as, and seems like, the little guys. Even the more than 160 million passengers that we carry every year may not know our company's names, as well as they know the mainline carriers we often serve. But we obviously play a critical role in getting them from point A to point B. Regional airlines serve 658 communities throughout the U.S., and in 70% of those communities, 470 airports, regional airlines provide the only scheduled commercial flights. For these communities, we are their sole link to the global marketplace. And while our planes may be smaller than those of our mainline counterparts, we actually fly the majority of the U.S. daily passenger service with more than 13,000 flights a day. Some of the locations where we provide more than half of the scheduled service may surprise you. They're the small airports named LaGuardia, Philadelphia, Washington Reagan, and Chicago. When presented with our importance to these passengers and these airports, the future of the industry appears to be one with a solid foundation and growth opportunities, and it is. But some serious challenges exist that could threaten regional service. And these are challenges on top of the airline industry's normal challenges, such as rising fuel and labor costs. The three challenges I'm going to focus on this morning are regulatory and government issues, pilot supply and demand, and the changing landscape of regional aircraft. On their own, each of these challenges can cause us to lose sleep, but combined, they could significantly impact, and in an extreme case, even cause service to halt in some of our smaller communities. So now to challenge number one. As the FAA's recent exercise in sequestration demonstrated, regional operations can be significantly impacted by political maneuvering and regulatory issues. During sequestration, regional airlines operated at least a quarter of the flights in 14 of the most heavily impacted airports. And at 4 of those airports, Chicago, Minneapolis, New York, and Newark, we operated more than half of the daily flights. Sequestration was a difficult and trying time for all of us with the thousands of flight delays. And as with many other situations involving large-scale flight disruptions, regional operations were disproportionately impacted. When resources need to be reallocated or redistributed, large aircraft and aircraft flying long stage lengths tend to be accommodated first. And there is logic to that. Mainlines will cut smaller planes from the network during peak times. And in ATC ground stops, close-in airports, sub-regions, or Tier 1 airports often see the most significant impact. I believe if we ever experience another and extended ATC reduction, smaller, regional airports would suffer by having their already limited flight options shrink or disappear entirely. It is just the reality of the business in which we operate. The contract tower issue reinforces the smallness or inconsequentiality of the smaller airports when compared to the larger hubs. The current ATC system, which has not changed since its inception in 1950, will increasingly be a factor in this reality. A next-generation air traffic management system could be a solution to this. If NextGen is more widely implemented as planned, delays are estimated to be reduced by 38% by 2020, providing $24 billion in benefits and saving 1.4 billion gallons of fuel. However, NextGen's implementation expansion is currently on hold due to sequestration. The story here is really simple. The FAA and the airline industry must deploy new technologies and optimize the efficiency of our ATC systems. If not, I believe providing full ATC service to smaller cities may eventually become unaffordable. Challenge number 2 comes down to a simple imbalance between supply and demand. Being an airline pilot is still a good job. I think I'd make that a great job, but nothing can compare to what things were 40 years ago. As you can see from the chart, the number of individuals pursuing pilot certificates is decreasing. Finding qualified candidates is increasingly difficult. The military is producing fewer pilots, and the economic hurdles candidates face from moving from student to airline pilot contribute to this challenge. But then combine these factors with the 1,500-hour rule, and we have further limited the pool of candidates from which we can choose. At the same time, there's a substantial increase in the number of pilots required. This is driven by several factors: the demographics of the current pilot workforce and the roughly 5 to 8% increase in staffing required by the new duty and rest rules. Further exacerbating this for us is that the mainline carriers will address these factors largely through increased recruiting from the regional carriers. So this imbalance of supply on one hand and demand for regional airline pilots will cause a shortfall, which almost surely in turn will result in service reductions to smaller communities. Short term, we are waiting to learn whether the government will allow students enrolled in accredited 2- and 4-year commercial flight schools to receive flight hour credits for the high-quality instruction they are receiving to meet the 1,500-hour flight requirement. American Eagle alone needs to hire 300 to 400 pilots this year, and we, like many of our fellow carriers, are having trouble finding qualified and quality applicants. In the long term, we need a better pipeline to encourage more individuals to choose the high-quality, high-paying jobs that a career as a pilot in the commercial airline industry can offer. The cost for professional pilot programs needs to be controlled and kept affordable through grants, scholarships, and financing. This aid to students enrolling in accredited 2- and 4-year programs will buffer the burden of the instruction and make this a more attractive career option. The airline industry is already partnering with these schools proactively and on its own to do this. But a larger government-sponsored program would help promote a career path that is vital to the industry. Then lastly, with mainline carriers, there is much talk of right-sizing regional aircraft. with the trend being to use larger planes as opposed to smaller ones. And the manufacturers are following suit, with the bulk of aircraft produced having 70-plus seats. When right-sizing, we need to keep in mind that not every regional airport can serve or support 70-plus seat aircraft on every segment. There are still a ton of small jets to lease, sell, and support, and they are our industry's bread and butter today. We also need to highlight to passengers and the mainline carriers we serve that modern turboprops are not our father turboprops. They are quieter, cleaner, totally modern, and safe. They have the same onboard look and feel as jets while providing seamless service at airports and during the flight experience. In many markets, these smaller jets and turboprops are all the economics will support and provide the community's sole link between their small market and the larger global aviation network. So these three challenges I have highlighted have an almost coordinated yet negative effect on the outlook for service to small communities. The shift toward fewer and larger regional aircraft, providing reduced frequencies to smaller cities, may actually provide relief as the air traffic system becomes strained. Plus, as the projected pilot shortage materializes, a reduction in this flying may become inevitable. In the face of these challenges, our industry remains strong, but it is a fast-changing one with multiple hurdles for us to face and overcome to prevent reduced or lost service to smaller communities. But our industry is tough and adaptable and capable of overcoming any obstacle we face. In the past decade, we have morphed our business model from prorate to capacity purchase agreements, transitioned our fleet, and consolidated our industry, all while operating safely and dependably. The regional industry has managed through tougher challenges in the last 38-year history of the RAA, and I'm confident that we will manage through whatever challenges the next decade presents successfully and maybe even profitably. I look forward to working together as an industry to not only address and overcome these challenges, but also strengthen the voice of the regional industry in Washington and beyond. Thank you for joining us here in Montreal and all your support for the RAA. Thank you very much.